Disney. Where do I even begin with you? We all know Disney animation has been, used to be, the king of animation. Alongside Pixar, they were dominant throughout the 2010s. And after 2019, things got slow. Everyone was kinda moving away from their movies. Their movies were just not turning out that great. 2021 had Encanto, which was good, but didn't do crazy numbers at the box office, and only really blew up because of Disney Plus, and we don't talk about Bruno. And, well, Strange World was just mid! And their movies were just declining in quality. Not a lot of people liked Frozen 2, even though it did extremely well. Not many people liked it. Encanto was okay. Strange World was just not good. And it's kind of been on a downward spiral where we're getting Disney sequels, we're getting all this stuff, and it's just not turning out great. And even financially, they're just not doing well. And the 100th anniversary for Disney was coming up, so you'd want a movie to celebrate this, right? And you'd also want it to do well. And, well, from the result of that, we got Disney's Wish. Now, this movie I've heard about since last year. I heard it was a movie basically celebrating 100 years of Disney animation. We didn't really see much from it, we just had one photo. Then I started seeing some leaked clips, and this looks a little different. That's when my suspicions, well, good suspicions, started rising. This movie looked different from what Disney normally does with their films. And yeah, we were right. When the first teaser came out, yeah, it looks drastically different from what Disney normally does. And well, a lot of people could say, yeah, they're going for the more stylized animation because, yeah, almost every animation studio is trying to divert themselves into something new. First started off with Spider-Verse, then it just went on to other franchises, TMNT, Nimona, a bunch of other, and Mitchell's vs. the Machines. I could go on forever. And everyone was wondering when Disney was going to step into this. I mean, they were the ones that started 2D animation and brought it into the light. They have the classics. So you'd expect Disney to follow suit. Well, they did and they didn't. With this, it is a change, but is it a drastic change? No. I see a lot of people's problems saying it just looks like they threw on a watercolor filter and made the backgrounds 2D and called it a day. And a little bit of that may be true. The film has some questionable shots, but then some shots in the film look really, really good. But getting into the film itself, Disney's Wish is a movie that celebrates the 100th anniversary of Disney. Now, when you put a movie like that on that pedestal, you kinda want it to be good. And one promise that most people want from a movie like this is it to have a good villain. And thankfully, I will say this, Disney actually listened and we actually got a good villain this time. Out of Chris Pines. Chris Pines has had an interesting career lately. He's gone from the Wonder Woman films to then going to Dungeons and Dragons, and now this. He's been on and off lately. And, well, I think he did fine in this role. I don't think he necessarily is going to go down as one of the best Disney villains out there, but he serves his purpose well. One thing I think the movie does best is that it tries to go away from what recent Disney movies have been going to. It kind of goes to the simplistic, there's this kingdom, there's this king and queen, and it works for me. One thing that the movie kind of suffers from, but I'm confused why, is that the movie was really, really fast-paced. Like, what I mean by this is that the movie is 1 hour, it is basically an hour and 35 minutes, which when you put up to terms with other films that have released this year, yeah, that's pretty short. But even then, I've seen films that have that runtime paced fairly well. At the end of this movie, I was like, wait, this is it? We're already at the climax? It's kind of weird. The characters are fun to follow. Asha is a fun protagonist, although I do see complaints about how Asha just seems like a carbon copy of a lot of other Disney princesses, basically their personality, and a little bit, but I feel like she stands out on her own, and I think, yeah, some Disney protagonists are kind of following into the same lane, that awkward shyness, and they're just clumsy. Um, but honestly, I think the dynamic around her friend group that she had was actually pretty likable. I honestly, thankfully, they actually were part of the story and just weren't background characters. Looking at you, Ruby Gilman, and they were essential to the plot. One of the characters, literally forgot their name. Sorry, but I immediately knew was voiced by the same person that voiced Burrito in Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. You'll know it instantly. He's mainly the funny one out of the entire group, but you'll know it when you see it. Getting on to that, let's just talk about the animation itself. Some shots look good, some shots look off and unfinished. I don't know what happened. I think they could have tried a little more, or just made the film 2D. 2D animation is still possible to this day and age to look really good. A really great example of this is the movie Klaus. If you have not seen this movie, it is the holiday season. Go watch it. It's on Netflix. It will stay there. Please watch that movie. The movie is a perfect example of how 2D animation can still be relevant and popular, and also at the same time looking so modern and just back to its roots. It feels like a warm Disney movie that you would put on your shelf as a DVD. Remember those old Disney DVDs? They put so much effort into those, and now they're just bland, which really does suck. But some shots look good, some shots look bad. It's kind of iffy. In the beginning, it looked off because, yeah, you're not used to this, but after you're like a good 20 or 30 minutes in, you're settled into it, you're fine. It's not gonna be off-putting the entire movie. One thing Disney complained about was saying, don't worry guys, the film doesn't look this bad, it's just YouTube doesn't render the film well. I've never heard of that about a movie, nor an animated movie, so that's really surprising to me. Did I notice a difference in theaters? No, not really. Once I got settled in with it, it takes some getting used to, it just looks weird. But it looks fine. I do like that the backgrounds are genuinely 2D, and there are some 2D sequences that work. First of all, I know the star definitely falls under, every Disney movie's gotta have that one extremely marketable character, and the star falls under that. And was the star annoying? No, not really. The star serves its purpose, and it did have my theater laughing. For good reasons. Not necessarily bad, but I think it was just... The movie just swished by. I kid you not, when you watch this movie, it will go by fast for you. And the songs... I really, really wanted to walk out of here with saying that Wish had some bangers, and most of the songs were just...
What do you mean,
Like, they weren't mind-numbing, they were just forgettable. I honestly don't see many of these songs really, blowing up or just becoming classics. Like, there were some songs, that were good. Like, there is a song when the town starts realizing, King Magnifico is not really helping with their wishes, and they have this whole, like, revolution song about what they need to do, and okay, that song was pretty good, but it's not necessarily a song that, everyone's gonna remember, everyone's gonna keep talking about. Even sadly, the villain that King Magnifico was gonna be, they kept hyping him up, saying he was gonna have this song that was gonna stick with us for years and years on end, and it was gonna match the likes of Scar and all these famous Disney villains, and it just didn't. It really didn't. Like, it wasn't a terrible song, it was just, the songs were a little disappointing. The main song of the movie was fine, but for its an 100th anniversary movie, the songs are kind of iffy. The story is fine. It kind of goes back into, I kind of like the whole settling back, going back into the old roots of what, the original Disney movies kind of had with their plots. I like that. But I think that just with this movie, Wish is okay. It's not bad. It's definitely better than the recent Walt Disney movies that we've been getting. They've just been either mid or bad. And I say this one goes over it. It's not a terrible movie. Does it save Disney? That's the question. Did Wish save Disney? We'll just have to see. We'll have to see how people react to this. Most critics are giving it a 50%, which is really surprising for this. I wasn't expecting that for this type of movie. And while some people, I think it's a 10 out of 10 on IMDb, which is insane. I've never seen that for a single movie this entire year. I know that's gonna change. But thankfully, on the financial side of things, the movie looks fine. It looks like it has a $40 to $50 million domestic opening, which is really good. So, because the last time we got that was, since Frozen 2, and it's a much better weekend than what Elemental had. So, hopefully this movie does well. I'm rooting for it. It's not the greatest Disney movie ever, but one thing I actually did like was the credit sequence. That I actually stayed and watched the whole thing. There wasn't no post-credit scene, but what they did with the credits I really liked. It was like a walk through memory lane with all, starting from the first Disney characters to what we have up to now. That is really nice. I do recommend sitting through the credits for that movie. It's like you they had a vision for this movie. They executed it on some levels, and some levels they didn't. The movie was fine. Would I recommend you go watch it? Yeah, I say give it a whirl. I feel like some people will walk out of this movie satisfied, some people will just walk out meh. And I think it falls under like a 7.5 out of 10 for me. Maybe I'll have to rewatch it just to maybe give my second thoughts on it. And I'll update this in the comments. But if you've seen Wish by now, because I think I'm posting this on Friday if nothing comes in the way, what did you think of Wish? Did you think it was good? Did you think it was bad? Let me know down in the comments. I know this movie is a pretty decisive and pretty split from what I've seen, so I'm curious to hear what you guys gotta say. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching this video, and happy Thanksgiving, everybody.